Hey everyone, welcome back to another video on Java programming series in 2025, and we have started Java programming series a couple of days ago, and today we will be talking about data types. So data types are extremely important and they are fundamental for any programming languages. Since Java is a statically typed language, what do I mean by statically typed language? Statically typed languages are the languages that need the type of the data at compile time. So before I run. So whenever you want to declare some kind of variable, let's say student's name, you need to define what type of data it will be, right? So that's what the purpose of data type is. So I've created a class called student, and imagine, let's say a student is 20 years old, right? Then this 20 is like a number. So I need to represent as it as a number type. I cannot just do, hey, age is 20. It is not valid. Maybe it's valid in some programming languages like JavaScript or Python. But in Java, since it is a statically typed language, compiled type language, right? I need to declare everything before I execute it. Otherwise, the compiler is not going to agree with us. Imagine I have a student. So the data type holds the type of the data. So for each data type, I do have a type that corresponds. And these types are, for sometimes they are integer, int, that represents number or something, and that are double, and that are float, that are character and boolean, right? I will be explaining each of these things with example. So let's imagine we have a student and we are representing a student. So what information or attribute a student can have? For example, let's say student is, and I'm going to be writing, let's say he's 20, right? Now the compiler is yelling at us, cannot resolve symbol because I haven't defined the type of the data. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to say, well, this is going to be integer. So that's going to be like a whole number. So integers are values like, 21, 23, 1, and 0, etc. Okay, so and it is also going to have, let's say, what else it can have? It can have like a name. So I'm going to be saying name, and then John and Doe, the famous guy in computer science. Everywhere we will see this name. So again, the same issue. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna be specifying its type again. And what it is, like it's basically text, right? In Java, we don't have text. So we have string, right? Whenever I want to represent something in the text format, it has to be string with S capital because it's a class, right? It's a class. If you hover over, it will show you the information, but don't worry about it yet. You will learn a lot of these things in coming videos. And what else? Well, the student can have like a date of birth. So yeah, if you want to represent, we have type for everything, but I'm going to be talking about primitive data types, so that like we will be dealing with date and time later on. But what else it can have? Let's say it can have like a gender. So I'm going to be saying gender. It can be either M or F, for example, male or female. I want to represent something like a single character. So I'm going to be saying gender equals to, and then I'm going to be saying M. But I have to, since it is a single letter, I'm going to be representing it as like this, right? The M. The same is here. So I have to represent, whenever I want a single letter to be represented by something, I need to write char, or many people call it car, and some people call it char, or other way around. But that doesn't matter. So whatever you call it, it has to be char. All right, so gender, that is going to be M. But if you write something else, more than one, it is not allowed because the character, that means only single letter. Okay, and when you are representing a string, it has to be inside of the double quote. So for example, if you just write single quote here, it won't work. You have to keep that in mind, right? Because now it is being created as a character, but the compiler is finding more than one later. So it has to be enclosed in double quote, sender, and then what else it could have? Let's say a student usually don't have a salary, but let's say he's working as a teaching assistant, and we can say salary. So double. All right, I'm going to be writing salary, and that is going to be, let's say, 2050. Okay, but now the compiler is again elling, so I need to say, hey, the salary is going to be like a double type, right? So double, so that this double, like the everything floating is by default going to be double, and it will be appended as D. You don't need to write it, but if you want to be explicit, you can write D as a double. And then there is another one called float. So you can say salary, for example, one. If you want to write as a float, you can do it so. And since the compiler is by default creating it as a double, right, you have to mention f as a float. So there is a subtle difference, because in the range they hold, double is usually the large one because they have a range. And then there is another one called boolean. So it could be like true or false or something like that. So if you want to represent, let's say it's a student graduated, right? For example, is graduated, and this value is either going to be true or false. Okay, so but the thing is, they are represented as boolean, this one here. Now I can say, well, yeah, this student is not graduated, so I'm going to be writing false. But I need to say, well, whenever something is either true or false, it must be Boolean. Okay, so Boolean. Now it works. All right. So the thing is, we have graduated. We have covered everything. So integer, double, float, and then character, and then Boolean. So now I can print it. Let's practice printing. So whatever we have been writing, system dot out dot, oh, sorry, I'm going to be writing a main method. So if you want to type main method, you can type main and hit enter. It will automatically generate. But since we have just begun, so I'm going to be writing manually public static void main, and then string array args, right? This one is like convention, and this one is going to be exactly same, right? So you can also write differently. We will talk about the hierarchs later, but for now just write like this. And this is the most common way that everyone will write it. And I'm going to be printing, so whenever I want to print something on the screen, so I'm going to be writing system dot out dot, it could be print or println. I told you the difference. Print ln text to the next line, the cursor will go to next line. So I'm going to be writing age equals, and then whenever you want to, we will learn more about concatenation. So whenever you want to print something that is stored as a variable, so you have to do it age and age. All right, so all right, the problem here is I'm gonna be copying and paste everything here inside of this. For now, just do this. I'll tell you in the next episode when we talk about this, why this is not allowed here and there, because we have to do some adjustment, which I don't want at this point since we have just begun with data types. Just write everything inside main method. Is, and then if you want to write something duplicate in IntelliJ, you can do Control D or Command D as a shortcut, or you can also write as out and enter. It is a shortcut that makes you productive. And then you can say name equals and then plus name. That means this plus will actually concatenate age just after age equals to age equals and then space, and then age will be printed, right? So it will be basically like All right, A's equals and then a space. And since A's is 20, it is going to be printed like this. And name, and then you can do whatever you want. So if I print it, I run it, you can do either here, like run student main.java, and boom. So here you got the output. It says age is 20 and the name is John Doe, right? So you might be wondering, why do I need to concatenate this? Can't I do this like this if you have just begun? Well, not really, because now this is going to be printed just like this. The Java will treat it as a string, not like the variable. So it's going to be like age is age, which is not desirable. So I'm going to be like control Z a couple of times. Now you will get the correct output. So now even if you want, for example, is graduated, and then is graduated, okay, and it will be printed. And then similarly you can do salary. It's just another print statement. So for example, if you want something different than these, let's say you want to write everything on one line, is graduated, and then you want to say okay, and it's in his salary and her salary, for example, you can write another concatenation, and then salary is, and then again plus and salary. Okay, so if you do it like this, it's going to be printed on the same line. The salary is this. Okay, so we can combine all of these things in one line. You can do it as a practice if you want. So this was all about data types. So how do we decide? Let me give you some quick hint. So whenever you want to represent something, in whole number, integer is probably the good choice. And if you want to represent something like text information, string is going to be, and you have to write it exactly same way I'm writing it. So int, everything lowercase, string s has to be capital because it's a class. And then I told you that class name always starts with capital letter, and then character, it has to be single quote enclosing character. And a salary, if you want some kind of floating like a number, decimal point value, double is basically good to go. And float, it's very similar, but we will talk more about maybe their type. So they differ in some kind of range. For example, you can write here a double as well, but this zero will be appended. And also the range, for example, integer has some range of variable. For example, you cannot write like, let's say, a very very large value here. It will L, because that is beyond the capacity. But if you do double, all right, it's still not valid. All right, so the double is valid, for example. Okay, so the double range, it will be here. And if you do integer, it is valid here, but you cannot add a lot of things. All right, because they have certain capacity. You have to change the type of the data. For example, I forgot there is one other variable which has a very small range. There is something called byte. I'm going to be saying byte, and let's say roll number and equals to 1 2. This is perfectly fine, but if you write 1 to 9, the byte is going to L, because its range is, I guess, 126 or 27. So if you do 127, it's fine, but if you exceed 127, it is going to be giving us some error, because the byte does not store value greater than 127. That's the difference in choosing. If you want to represent, let's say you are guaranteed to have some number that is always less than 127, you can always go with byte, right? Because let's say you want a house number in a certain area, so the byte would be better choice, because it will take maybe it will store as a fewer number of bits. So yeah, And that was all about data type. Do some practice, try to create some variables and then try to store in a experiment, and maybe you can concatenate and print. If you want, just can print it as, let's say, you don't even need to concatenate a roll number. You can do like this and then just run it, right? So, but if you want to practice concatenation, just do like this and you will understand why it works and why not. All right, so that was it for this data type. I hope that was clear. So if you have any concerns, just write in the comment section. I will try to address as early as possible. Otherwise, thanks for watching and see you in the next one.